The Crown Clash event is right around the corner in Pokemon Go, but stop. We are in the OG background right now. If you guys recognize this background, you've been around from the very beginning. We're only going to be here for a few days, but if you have been here, very grateful for your support. But more importantly, we have a brand new Pokemon Go debut. We've got shiny boosts to discuss, and we've even got a brand new costume debut, which is incredible. And of course, there's going to be one or two pro tips that we're going to throw in here that you guys probably aren't thinking about. This is the Crown Clash in Pokemon Go. Shh. Let's get dates out of the way, guys. The Crown Clash event is going to be starting on Saturday, which is unusual, which is May the 10th at 10 a.m., running until Sunday, May 18th at 8 p.m. local time. And remember, we're going to have the Crown Clash Takeover event, which is going to be taking place at the second half of this event. But before we move on to anything else, let's talk about our Pokemon Go debuts. And the first one is Kingambit. Finally, the king arrives into the game. If you guys don't know, Pawniard can evolve into Bisharp using 50 candies, and Bisharp can now finally evolve in Pokemon Go. You need to defeat 15 Steel or Dark type Pokemon in raids. Let's have a look at its base stats. Kingambit is a Dark and Steel type Pokemon originally introduced actually in the Paldea region in Generation 9. Kingambit has a max CP of 4086, so right off the bat, the fact that this is over 4000, love that. But have a look at these attack, defense, and stamina stats. An attack of 238, a defense of 203, and a stamina of 225. The fact that every single one of these stats are over 200 doesn't necessarily mean it's the best, but it's very rare to see a Pokemon all above 200, which means this Pokemon is probably going to put in some work for us. Let's have a look at its weaknesses now. Because of that fighting and steel typing, it's going to take super effective damage from fire and ground, but it's going to be double weak to fighting, again, because fighting hits steel and dark for super effective damage, but it's going to resist dark, dragon, flying, ghost, grass, ice, normal, rock, steel, poison, as well as psychic. Steel is arguably the best type in the entire game because it has so many resistances. The fast attacks it has access to is going to be Metal Claw and Snarl, and the charge moves it has access to is going to be Dark Pulse, Iron Head, X Scissor, and Focus Blast, which means currently that the best moveset you could use on this Pokemon is probably going to be Metal Claw and Dark Pulse, but remember, this just considers DPS really, which you can see the DPS there for that combination is 14.23 with a TDO of 305, which isn't that great, but again, you're going to want to be using this Pokemon in PvP, but definitely as a raid attacker and the Dark and Steel type category, and we're going to show you why in a little bit at the end. On to those bonuses now. It's going to be 2 times XP for evolving Pokemon. We can get the increased chance to encounter Shiny Nidoqueen wearing a crown, Shiny Nidoking wearing a crown, Shiny Slowpoke, Shiny Combi, and Shiny Litleo, which are going to be in the wild, which is insane. And more importantly, catching a Slowpoke may reward us with a King's Rock. Of course, you can see what they're doing here in this event, all about crowns and kings. But how do we even get some of those Pokemon? Let's look at the wild spawns very quickly. Spawning in the wild, we have Slowpoke, Slackoth, Piplup, Combi, Snivy, Litleo, and Pawniard. We had featured raids going down, of course. In 1-star raids, we're going to have Sneasel, Clink, and Pawniard there again. But in 3-star raids, that is where we're going to be able to get the Nidoqueen wearing the crown and the Nidoking wearing the crown, which can be shiny. And I have a feeling these odds, without anyone really knowing, I have a feeling these might be slightly boosted. So I would say the odds might be 1 in 64 here or 1 in 128. So if you really want that shiny, it'll be super rare. Imagine you got that Shundo, that would be incredible. Be on the lookout for Pokestop showcases. They are going to be returning again, and we say this every single video, guys. You really want to be entering these showcases because they can grant you XP, Stardust, some premium items such as some lure modules, but more importantly, you can really work towards that Platinum Medal showcase, which requires you to win 100 showcases, and I would say a very attainable Platinum Medal to get. Of course, we have field research that is going to be featuring event-themed Pokemon, but most specifically, I want you guys to focus on that Pawniard because we really want that Hundo so we can get that Hundo Kingambit. The 100% IV coming from field research for Pawniard is going to be 614. So remember that number and screenshot it if it's going to help you. All right, top tips time. I'm going to start off with tip number 1, which actually has to do with a bit of Stardust gains, more specifically focused on the Pokemon Combi. And of course, like we mentioned at the beginning of the video, Combi is going to be a shiny boosted Pokemon during this event. And if you manage to get that female, you could get the shiny Vespiquen, which would be absolutely incredible. But remember, guys, Combi yields 750 Stardust for every combi that you catch. So for example, if you find yourself in windy weather, for example, turn on your game, these combi are probably going to be spawning very, very frequently because it's not a rare spawn. If you do see a lot of them, you can throw in a star piece. You could get up to about 1,000, or I think it's just shy of 1,000 Stardust per catch. An incredible opportunity. They are very difficult to catch, to have your Ultra Balls ready, but trust me, this is a really, really good way to get some quick Stardust. On to tip number 2, which in my opinion has to do with the bonus of 2x evolution XP. I want you guys to focus on the famous 5 if you do have them in your bag: Wishmer, Caterpie, Wurmple, Weedle, and Pidgey. Guys, these Pokemon only require 12 candy per evolution, which means if you have some of these evolutions in your bag, you could blow through some of these evolutions on a lucky egg in a half an hour or an hour time frame, where you're going to get double XP per evolution, which means you're going to get up to 4,000 XP per evolution. Guys, that is broken, especially if you have a lot of them in your bag. Trust me, this is a pro tip. Do not sleep on this. A lot of people are going to be doing this. Our last tip actually has to do with Pawniard. Because this Pokemon is not going to be the most accessible in this event, you can get it from 1-star raids or in the wild, but it's going to be a rare spawn. Guys, every single Pawniard you catch, if you really want the hundo, which I definitely want, a hundo Kingambit, and we're going to show you why in a little bit when it comes to the rankings. Guys, you really want to be trading Pokemon. Trading Pokemon in Pokemon Go is arguably, in my opinion, the most hidden way to get hundos, shundos. Again, we say it every community day video. If you trade Pokemon, these are the results that you can see on screen right now. These all came from trades, which is insane. Every single Pawniard you catch, I want you to trade it with the best friend if you do have it. If not, you can do it ultra friend. It really increases your chances of getting that hundo. So please trade the Pawniard. It's going to be very, very useful for you. But again, how good is Kingambit in Pokemon Go? Well, unfortunately in PvP, we can't see the rankings right now, but because of that dual fighting and steel typing, it's going to be very weak to fighting types. So I have a feeling it will rank particularly well in the Great League and Ultra League, but let's have a look to see how it performs as a raid attacker in the steel type category. Guys, as a budget Pokemon, Kingambit is currently taking the 18th spot. It's breaking into the top 20 with a Metal Claw and Iron Head combination, which is super impressive. And even in the dark type category, it's taking the exact same spot, number 18, breaking into the top 20 with that Snarl and Dark Pulse. Both of these movesets are pretty optimal to use on Kingambit because as a steel type as well as a dark type attacker, we could use it in both categories, which is very, very helpful. Now it's time for our top targets. To be honest, guys, in the wild spawn pool, there's not a hell of a lot of Pokemon in there that you really want to be targeting. Of course, if you need a King's Rock, go after that Slowpoke. If you need the shinies of those wild spawns, there are some beautiful shinies in there, but the main one we would go after in terms of utility, what's really going to help you in something like PvP, for example, is going to be Snivy, which is of course going into Superior. Guys, Superior in the Great League right now currently ranks at 73. The Shadow's ranked at 117 with that Frenzy Plant Legacy move. The optimal IV sets you want there are going to be a 0, 10, 15, and even in the Ultra League, it ranks really well at 107 with XL Candy, and we're about to show you why. Even in that Shadow form, it's ranked 143 because with XL Candy at level 50, Superior only needs to have the IV set of 10, 14, 15. So if you maybe have a Snivy in your bag that doesn't necessarily have the normal low attack, high defense, high stamina stat that we would want for PvP, in this case, if you go to Go Stadium Rank Checker, you guys can check this Pokemon to see how good is it really going to perform in these leagues respectively. And last but not least, I want you guys to at least do a few of those 3-star raids, which is of course going to be featuring the Nidoking and Nidoqueen with the crowns, and of course having that shiny. Like I said, I think they may have that shiny boost, but if you could get that Shundo, it could be one of the most rare Pokemon to get in the entirety of the game. Unfortunately, Nidoking or Nidoqueen as raid attackers, you know, as poison types or as ground types, there are better Pokemon to use in the game. So if you do get that Hundo, you could really power it up and use it maybe as a budget type attacker, but it does get beaten out by other ground and poison types in the game. But from a rarity point of view, guys, I must say, I think a lot of people are going to be going after this, but of course the big hit is going to be that Kingambit. Guys, that is the Crown Clash. We really hope you enjoyed this video. We packed it. Again, I really appreciate your support. Everyone's hitting that subscribe button. Please really do that. Smash that like. It really helps us grow, and we want to grow with you guys together. Appreciate your support. Seriously. Remember to check out Palmy Community Day. You guys are loving that video as well. Love you guys. Go with us, and we'll catch you in the next one, baby.